What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm really excited that you're here, and I'm really excited that you've tuned into this episode of the Bo Knows Real Estate Podcast because this episode is a little different. Usually, I'm the one interviewing guests and talking about their journeys and everything. This time, it's a little bit different. I was asked to be interviewed on my podcast about my journey, and it was really cool to look back and reflect on where I started and my journey up to this point. And so I'm really excited for you to listen to this story, and I hope that it resonates with you in some way. And if you're on your social media journey or your personal branding story or your entrepreneurship journey, my encouragement to you is just to keep going. You'll get to where you want to go, but just have fun along the way. Enjoy this episode. Let me know what you think. So we're live, my friend.
Dude, I'm excited to be, I mean, everybody says that, right? I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
But truly, I knew you when you didn't even know what the reels weren't a thing.
Yeah.
You just got in the title.
Yeah.
It was about 5 years ago for me to know you.
Yeah.
And you were Bo, the guy who did title and chased agents.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the transformation. You went from that to, we did a solo agent thing for episodes that were fun for about a year.
Yeah.
That was great. And I saw a transition in you.
Yeah.
Reels came about.
Mm-hmm.
And you started to form a brand.
Yeah.
And you started to grow.
Yeah.
And then you opened a Bullard Media.
Yeah.
But you're still doing title, and they've allowed you to just basically do your thing.
Right.
And it still brings in business and added value. So I want to talk about all of that, the ins and outs.
Yeah.
And how did that form Bo today?
Yeah. Well, it's really funny actually, because it's interesting to hear the recap of my journey, because I never really look back on the things that I've done to get to now where we are today.
Yeah.
And I'm still just like everybody else, there's such growth that is going to happen, and that's for everyone. And so, but it is funny to look back. I sometimes think about it where in the beginning of my title career, I was the guy that would chase around agents and try to I didn't know what I was doing. And that is how the brand of social media and video and online presence came about, was because I didn't know how to provide real value to somebody. I was just like, hey, Mr. Agent, would you want to work with me at Pioneer Title? And then I started to ask myself, why would they leave who they're currently working with to come work with me when I'm providing no additional value?
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about it logically like that. And it's interesting because you're right. When Reels came about, I wasn't really on social media at all. I was just posting here and there.
Nothing.
And then I started seeing on Instagram, these Reels thing, people are getting an enormous amount of attention with these Reels. And I want an enormous amount of attention so I can reach more people. But at the time, I probably wasn't even thinking that way. I was just like, this seems like a cool thing to do.
At that time, you were like, it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
Just put a reel on and you'll get attention.
Yeah.
But how that shifted so dramatically.
Yeah.
That was just the one start of consistency.
Right.
Where did that lead you next?
Yeah. So I think that once I started posting on social a lot more, and this was probably 3-4 years ago, because I was in title for about a year. Then I got into the sales aspect of it, and I didn't know how to really sell. And then I got a coach, and we started working through things. And then I got the social media thing, and I started doing more reels, more content on social. And I feel like the transition was, I started to realize that this is a real thing. This is a very real thing. I'm getting a lot more attention from people that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's very powerful to me. I would have never known Ricky over here if it wasn't for Instagram. And I started seeing that I'm developing real relationships through just posting on social media. And then pretty much at that point is where I really had a perspective change. I was like, this is not just posting on social media. This is developing a brand at scale to where you can meet so many people in your industry and outside of your industry for referral purposes and for in-state, in your market business opportunities. And so I feel like that's what really took the turn. And then that's when I went all in. I was like, okay, now I'm going to find out who my target audience is. I'm going to really form my content around them. And then I'm going to start getting them involved. And so I know that we did that with the solo agent that we were a part of. I started getting other agents in our market involved with me so we could do it together. And then that continued to grow. And then that transformed into me opening Bullard Media, my marketing agency. So it's just all these little things that kept adding up just from me believing in it. And it was a very interesting journey, up to this point. And so I'm really excited for what's to come.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about your why. What before the why was different before you got to where you are today.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that why.
Okay.
The why of, why did Bo get up?
Yeah.
River wasn't a thing yet.
No.
You and Sophia were probably just engaged.
Yeah.
What was your why then?
That's interesting. That's a super interesting question. It's funny because I'm usually the one asking these questions. It's interesting, Greg, because I went to college to NAU.
Yeah.
And I was working as a title assistant. So I was like typing up policies and doing that stuff. And I was getting a criminology degree. So obviously I had no plan as to what I wanted to do as a career. I just was like hoping something would come up. Like I had no intention whatsoever to get into social media at all. And so I was going to NAU. I was getting a criminology degree. I was working as a title assistant. Didn't even have sales in my future. And my why at that point, I didn't really have one. I really didn't have any why besides like I didn't really want to be like successful. I didn't want people to know who I was. I didn't want like any of that. I didn't even know that was a possibility, really. I was like little old me. I'm from Camp Verde, little small town, Arizona. Like I never thought that would be a possibility. And so it's very interesting to go from there to my why today, which is what we'll get into. And it's different than what people think, because I heard somebody say this once. When people say their why is their kids and their wives, that shouldn't be your why. That's just your responsibility to take care of them and be a good husband and be a good dad. I mean, that's not your why of getting up in the morning. Shouldn't be that. Right. You should just be doing that because that's what a good dad and husband do.
Right.
And so my why today is a lot different. But like I said, going back into my past, going through NAU and then fast forwarding a little bit into sales, still at that point, no real why.
Okay. And
I feel like that's a very interesting question, especially for me at this point thinking about it, because I feel like that's so important for people to really try to understand their real why as soon as they can. Because I feel like there's a lot of people who really don't understand their why even today, and they're 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, and they're still missing something. Yeah. And so I've been around a lot of great people over the last year, and I've been learning a lot of really cool things. And my why has changed. But yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't really have a why back then. And back then, if you had asked me 5 years ago what my why was, I'd have been like, oh, my wife. Yeah. That's my why. I try to do my best for her, when that should not be somebody's why, because that's just your job.
Where did that change for you? When that all kind of clicked?
Yeah. So honestly, it probably changed relatively recently. Like I'd say about 2 years ago.
Okay.
It kind of started to change. The why went from not having a why to now being like, all right, this is a very powerful thing. Like developing these relationships with people and then learning things from them that you can have a platform to share with other people. And so my why, like today, and how it kind of has transformed is, at the end of the day, nobody really cares about you. Like not you, but nobody really cares about you. Nobody cares about me. At the end of the day, like everybody cares about themselves and how you make them feel. And that's where it really shifted for me. Was I was like, because there was a small time frame there where I was like, my why is to make a lot of money. Right? That's what I really would like to do. I'd like to make a lot of money because I think people will think that would be cool. Right? That Bo has a lot of money, he has nice cars, and he has nice houses and stuff. And then really quickly after that, I was like, that's not a good place to be. Because I was like, first of all, no one cares. No one cares about how much money you have.
Exactly.
And then it shifted quickly to, I really care about how I make people feel after I talk with them and how after I have an interaction with them, because that's what I care about. After I talk with Greg, like I feel good. Like I feel like, we had a good conversation and I feel good about myself. I'm leaving there smiling. And there are a lot of people, especially like in this world of entrepreneurial journeys and stuff, where it's chasing money and it's chasing the nice things. And I get it. Like that is cool things, but they sometimes come across as like like their egos are huge. And it's like, you leave the room feeling like you're less than. And I want to make people feel like you have all the potential in the world to do what you want to do. Yeah. Like, and I'm here to support you. Like I'm cheering you on every step of the way. And so that's kind of my why now is every time I leave an interaction with somebody, how do I make them feel? Like I want them to leave with a smile on their face and believing inside that, wow, I can accomplish what I want to accomplish. If I'm a realtor, like I can go from 10 to 20 homes if I really double down on the things that I should be doing. And so I'm super passionate about that at this point. And it's been a really fun thing to go. I was asked to speak at an event in October. And before I spoke, I had some people come up to me before my talk, and they were saying that I was really inspiring. And I promise I'm not bragging about myself. I was so deeply humbled by that. Like it took me back. I didn't even know what to say because I was like, I am a small kid from a small town, right? I'm a kid from a small town that this thing wasn't a thing. Like nobody came up to you and said that you were inspiring, you know, in my town. It just wasn't a thing. And so I was super, super humbled. Right now, I feel super humbled by those. It was like 3 or 4 people that used the same word, that I was inspiring and that I've inspired them to do something. And that has become my why. Like that makes me feel so good that I've helped somebody dream bigger and want more for themselves, that I'm like, that's what I'm chasing.
Well, I love it because, you know, it's biblical.
Yeah.
It says to have a clear vision and live in hope.
Right.
Right. So when you look at Bo, really what you did was biblical. You've given inspiration, which gives a vision,
right,
which gives hope, which helps them get to the next level. And you're providing that.
That's
I
really
think,
cool.
you know, that's massive.
Yeah.
And if we're not doing that with our hearts wholeheartedly to help people,
right,
like, what are we doing?
Right.
Right. Because otherwise, chasing transactions, we just talked about it.
Yeah.
That is so empty.
It's so empty.
I hate it. You hate it. That's why you changed.
That's why I changed. And, you know, my mind has changed a lot, and my perspective on things has changed a lot from, you know, I get it. Transactions are important. That's how we pay bills. That's how everybody, if you're in a sales world or whatever, that's how you pay your bills. I get it.
But there's a better way.
But there's a better way. Yeah. And I feel like it's more about developing real, genuine relationships with people. And that's cliche to say, but it's the truth.
Yeah. Like
real, genuine relationships with somebody to where they don't know you just as the lender or just as the agent or just as the title guy, but they know you as the guy that has the same dogs and you guys have kids and you do things that human beings do. Yeah. Not just the lending robot or the agent robot or the title robot. Like you're a real human being. And that's where I really transitioned into, is because I feel, especially right now where we are in the world and where we are in the market, you know, the market compared to what's going on in the world is so small.
Yeah.
You know, like one of the events I was at in San Francisco, somebody was like, there's literally wars going on, children dying and people, and just, it's horrible, horrendous things. We're complaining about 8% interest rates.
Yeah.
Like let's really shift our perspective on things, because right now, our lives are good. Like I get that there's people that are in tremendous situations in their lives and stuff, and I feel for you. Like I'm here for you, and I get it. But the people that are living just a regular life, that are complaining about 8% interest rates, 7% interest rates, when that's kind of normal, you know, like perspective change. Like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this all the time, and it's seriously something that I live by. Is if you wake up in the morning, and when you go to bed at night, during that time period, if your family didn't get into a car accident and was killed, that is one of the greatest days of your life. Doesn't matter what else is going on in your world. Doesn't matter what interest rates are at. If the closest people in your world, I don't even care if you don't have family, if the closest people, your best friend, the person that you love at the grocery store, if they weren't killed that day or seriously injured, your life is good.
Yeah. And that brings back, you know, that's The Power of Now, the book by Eckhart Tolle. Just the extreme being present,
right,
is such a gift. Yeah. And everything else disappears.
Yeah.
You know, I love that you say that.
Yeah.
You know,
it's, you know, and it's very fun for me, because I'm never somebody to sit here and act like I've made it. You know, like, again, my name's Bo. I am from a small town, and that'll always be my core, right? And that's how I believe about myself. And I'll never sit here and act like I have, you know, the most experience in real estate and stuff, but I know what I know. And I know the fact that if my family's healthy, everything is good.
Yeah.
And I know that if I take it by inch, building up my agency, or inch by inch, developing more relationships with realtors that will work with Pioneer Title, like, and we're happy doing that. And we have the same perspective of real estate is a very small thing when it comes to our whole life. You know, like, it's just a small thing. And when we start thinking like the transaction is our whole world, it's a dark place, and I don't want to live there. And I want to live outside of that place with a bunch of other people. We have to all change our perspectives on how we live day to day.
Yeah. We were talking before this, and you have a no theory.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I'm sure that there's an actual, like, you know, philosophy around this thing, but I've always, since I started this journey, you know, because I started the podcast, and I've started doing a lot on social media, brand building for myself. And when I started that journey, I would reach out to a lot of people, and I would say, hey, come on to my podcast. We can talk about real estate, we can talk about cars, and we can talk about whatever, and just have a conversation and share it with the world if it gets to that point, because there is no limit on what social media will allow. I mean, you can reach the world. It's as simple as that. I don't, you know, but the few thousand people I reach through the podcast, like, that's wonderful for me. But the theory that I have of no is I'm so unemotional about no. So if somebody says, no, I don't want to work with your marketing agency, no, I don't want to be on your podcast, great. Thank you for at least responding and getting back to me. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah. And that has helped me in so many ways, because a lot of times people will receive a no and it'll crush them. You know, like, it'll be like, oh, like, what did I do wrong? You know, is there something that I did or something that I said?
They don't like me.
They don't like me. Like,
it's never about that.
Yeah. What did I do wrong? Yeah. So I've never felt that way. I've just felt like a no is a no until it turns into a yes.
Yeah. And
that's all it is. And there may be somebody who says no that later on is in a different part of their life than they were when they said no, and now they say yes. And that's happened to me in so many areas with my marketing agency, Bullard Media, with Title. Like, it's a no, it's a no, it's a no. Maybe there's 60 no's, and then 61st is a yes. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that goes into follow up and different things, but it goes into more of a psychological feeling of no is unemotional to me. Yes is unemotional to me. I also believe in the fact that I don't get too high on the highs and I don't get too low on the lows. Mm-hmm. And I've always been that way since I was a kid. I remember whenever I got a good grade on the test, I was like, okay. Yeah. Whenever I failed the test, I was like, okay. When I graduated high school, there's parties and everything going on afterwards. I went to dinner with the 4 of my family members and went to bed like it was a normal night. When I graduated college from NAU with a bachelor's degree, I didn't even go to my graduation. Actually, I did the virtual thing and I watched for 5 seconds and I turned it off and I did something with my family, or I went to work or something. I'm so unemotional. There's so many people, I feel like they get super high on the highs, and that's okay. Like, celebrate the wins, but then they get really low on the lows. And I feel like I don't want to be either, you know?
Talk about your family. Was your dad like that? Was your mom like that? Where'd you learn it from?
Yeah. So my mom is, she's an emotional person, and I love that about her. Like, yeah. She cares. She loves deeply. Like, she loves extremely aggressively, and I love that about her. And she'll always talk about how she's feeling, and the one thing about my mom, especially with me, because I'm the favorite child, easily. My mom, whenever I talk to her, it's like nothing else in the world matters. It's just her and I.
Yeah.
And I think that's super special. Like, I don't talk to her as much as like either one of us would like, I'm sure, which I need to be better at, because again, like, that's the most important thing. But whenever we do talk, it's a super special thing because we don't talk a lot, but when we get on a phone call or something, it seems like it lasts 35, 40 minutes to an hour, and it just goes by like so fast, and it's just such a special time. My dad is very unemotional. So he was a cop for 30 years. And so, but I think just in his core too, like, he's just an unemotional person. I think I get that aspect from him where, you know, he doesn't get too high on the highs and he doesn't get too low on the lows. Like, something really bad could happen, mm-hmm. and there he is, just right in the middle.
Yeah.
And something really good could happen, and he celebrates and he laughs. Like, there's no one that I laugh harder with than with my dad.
Yeah.
And it's like belly laughing to where we can't breathe. And but it's actually really good, like, stabilizing, unit that we have of, I do have the emotional factor through my mom, and I do have this more of like the stable mindset type thing with my dad. And I think you need both. I think you need an emotional aspect in your life. When my son was born, I became a lot more emotional about things.
Okay.
Like whenever I hear a sad song or something like about a son and a dad, immediate tear, immediate. Because you think differently about it. Like you have this human being that relies on you for everything. Like without you, they don't make it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a really powerful thing. And then my wife and I have always been really close, Sophie and I, we've done everything together. And so there's a lot of factors there that about my family. I have the best family that anybody could ask for.
I met your dad. We rode bikes. Yeah. He's awesome. From
my parents to my wife and son now, the unit there is so incredibly strong and powerful. There is a lot of emotion, in that family, and it's good emotion. It's very positive. And it's a blessing. Sometimes I'll ask myself, like, what did I do to deserve, this family? Because you'll hear about people that have families that it's not like that, and there's so much division and stuff. And it's like, how did I just get the greatest family in the world? Mm-hmm. And so I'm super blessed, and I take it for granted, just like everybody does everything.
Sure.
And, but I'm self-aware about that. And I try my best every day to remind myself, like, that's the most important thing in the world. Mm-hmm. Focus on that, because nothing else matters. Yeah. Nothing else matters. Even though we get caught up in the day to day, that it's like, man, every day we should be talking to the people that we love the most, and the people that love us back. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. So the real journey,
the
REEL, journey, it's really transformed you.
Yeah.
Besides being so powerful to reach the masses, and you're realizing that, helping people get vision and hope and a platform to get bigger. But I think that doesn't just transform in the world of social media.
Right.
When you apply those same principles, like you talked about consistency a lot.
Yeah.
It transfers into other principles in your job.
Right.
How has that connected the dots for you on both sides?
Yeah. So that's a really good question, actually. With social media, I've actually learned a lot about follow-up. I've learned a lot about consistency. I've learned a lot about just creativity in general. So a lot of times, people will see me as like just a social guy, the social media guy. I went from the title guy to the social guy, and I had like a little brand for a while, the social title rep.
Does that bother you?
No, it doesn't bother me. I think that there needs to come a point, though, and there needed to come a point where I was seen more as the social guy.
Okay.
Right, the social media guy. Like I'm a strategist guy, where I use social media as a tool to reach people to do more business and to impact other people's lives, and that's why I use it. I say this all the time: if social media went away tomorrow, then first of all, social media is attention. And I've talked about this a lot, but social media is attention. That's where just human beings' attention lives, is in the social platform apps. That's where it lives. And if tomorrow social media just gets deleted from the universe, human beings, they want to put their attention towards something. So their attention will go somewhere else. It may go to newspapers. It may go to radio. It may go to television. And I feel like that's where a lot of people miss it, because a lot of people are very social oriented. Like they're like, I love social or I hate social. Most people, they're fine with social media. But they also are like, social media is everything. Like that's everything. It's not social media, it's attention. When you understand that social media is consumer attention, then you understand like it's not about social, it's about getting in front of those people. So if tomorrow social media gets deleted and goes to newspapers, I'm the first one to run to newspapers and try to have the greatest ads in newspapers.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how I think about it. But to answer your question about whether or not it bothered me and stuff, it didn't really bother me. I just think I felt like there was something greater that I could do. I had more purpose behind just being the guy that posts on social media and stuff.
Yeah.
And so now I try to help other people like, here's what I do, and I'm by no means the best at it, but here's what I do, and you're asking me, so here's how I'm going to help you. And then that's where it begins. That's where the avalanche theory begins, is, now people start doing it, and then they refer other people, and now you become this guy that helps people, and he knows everything, about stuff. And I feel like that comes down to more of, are you likable? There's been a lot of people that I've come across that are super, super good at what they do, but they're just like, you don't feel good after talking to them. It's almost like during the conversation, they're insulting you because of how little you know. And it's like everybody starts by knowing nothing.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be that way. I want people to leave the conversations that we have feeling like, I have so much motivation now to go and accomplish something. And I know that if I have any problems, that I can call Bo and he'll help me, because Bo started with nothing and he started with 0 followers and he started knowing nothing about social media, and we'll work together on it. So
how was the transition? I know you've gone to Reno and talked on stage. I know you did some. I can't remember where else, but you were on another stage platform.
Yeah.
And sharing your knowledge and giving some good tips.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah. So that's a good question too. I don't know. And my initial response is just through my social media content. But at the same time, there's people who have much better content than me. And so if I really think about it, and I really think about why am I being asked to go and speak on stages as one of the spotlight speakers?
Yeah.
That's very humbling for me to hear that. And I feel like it comes down to social media, because without that, then a lot of times people won't get to know you. They won't ever discover you, so they can never get to know who you are. But I do think it comes down to just who you are as a person. I feel like just people miss that a lot of times. And are you easy to talk to? Are you likable? Can people trust you? And can people be like, I want him to talk to my people? And so I think that comes down to it. But I think it also comes down, the primary answer is, over the last couple years, over the last 4 years, I've been really, really consistent.
Yeah.
I've really committed to this thing, even though before, I talk about it all the time, I did not like social media. I was just like, I feel like it's a toxic place. I feel like it's a place that people just go to show off and that type of thing. And I'm transitioning into, let's make it a place where we inspire people. And, I like what you say, give people hope about, just because they're in this place doesn't mean that they can't get out of it.
Right.
Like that saying, if you're in hell, then don't stay there. Like, get out.
Well, quick.
Get out of there, And so make changes, adapt, and do things differently. And so I feel like it's also like what I talk about. So a lot of times people will talk about the very nitty gritty. Here's how to add captions. Here's how to do these edits, and here's how to do it. I talk a lot about, you will learn all of that stuff. You will learn all of that stuff. The problem is that you're not getting started. And why are you not getting started? That's the direction I've really gone. It's been proven a million times that this type of things works for all industries. Name an industry and social media is effective. There's going to be people being like, here's an industry that's, but most industries, social media is extremely effective. So my question to a lot of people is why are you not going all in? Like, why is it not one of your primary non-negotiables during a day?
Do you think it's fear and not knowing what your true gift is to share?
Yeah, so I feel like fear for sure. So I talk about fear and insecurity a lot, because a lot of people may not know this. I take a lot of takes with my videos a lot of times. Sometimes I'll get it like on the first one, but that's very rare. Like sometimes it's a lot of takes. It's walking back and forth to my camera, start, restart. And there's some people who can just, boom, hit the camera, talk, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
For some, it's not that way. For most, it's not that way. Like, just keep doing it, keep practicing. You'll take less and less takes, and you'll get there. But I truly believe that the number one reason why people don't get started with social media is because of fear and insecurity. I also believe that that's an excuse. So fear, I get. I'm scared of starting with this, and what is my uncle going to think? What is my grandpa going to think? What are my sister and my brothers and my parents going to think, and my coworkers? And I get it. In the same point, everybody's going to deal with that. And everybody is going to criticize what you do until you prove it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started saying this, and I believe that I did not get this from anybody else. I believe that this is my statement. Nobody will believe in you until you prove it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody will believe in you until you prove it to them.
Mm-hmm.
But first, you have to prove it to yourself.
Yeah.
That is the thing that changed it for me, because I talk about this all the time, where when I started on social media, I would take my phone out and I'd be like, which do you prefer, dogs or cats? And that's my question of the day, answering the comments. To where now it's like, and back then I was very, very insecure, but I was like, man, this is getting a lot of attention. At that point, I didn't really understand the why of it all and everything, but I started. That's where I have to tell people, but I started, and I had nobody telling me, like, you know, do this, it will work for you. It develop a brand. Like, I didn't know what brand was, you know. And then eventually, since I started, you know, getting more into social, I started seeing more videos of Gary Vaynerchuk and different people who were preaching this type of thing. And I was like, man, this is it. But in the very beginning, I was like a lone ranger.
Did you even understand what your gift was at that time?
I still probably don't understand what it is.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
Okay.
I still don't understand exactly what my God-given gift is. And I feel like you have to try things to eventually figure out what it is. And so I'm constantly trying new things. If I had to say what it is, I just have a real passion, and it really, really motivates me and inspires me every day to help people. And that's very interesting, Greg. That's interesting. Because if you take me a year ago, or even 2 years ago, or even 6 months ago, and you asked me, do you enjoy helping people? It was absolutely not. It's very interesting, the transition
What turned it for you?
What I think turned it for me is people reaching out and saying, you've inspired me to do this.
Oh.
You've inspired me to do this. You're inspiring. I kept hearing this over and over. I spoke at that same event in Reno 2 years in a row.
Okay.
And the first year, people came up to me and was like, you're super inspiring. And you have to realize I am just me sitting in my office or in my home or in my car creating content, not knowing what effect it's having. I'm just like, I'm throwing spaghetti against the wall.
See what sticks.
I'm just like, maybe something will happen. And then I go to these events and people are coming out to me from Florida, from Washington, from New York, from all these different states and saying, my gosh, like, your stuff is so inspiring. And so for the first year, I was like, wow, I remember calling my wife and was like, I really, really liked talking on stage. I didn't realize that I would like that, but I really enjoyed it. And the second year, they asked me to be one of the spotlight speakers, because the first year was I was like a panelist. I was on a panel of people. Second year was I had the whole stage.
Okay.
Super humbled. And I was shocked by that. But the second year, even more people were coming. People were offering me jobs, and people were saying, like, you're so inspiring. Will you come talk to my teams and all that stuff? And it's not a brag about me. There was such a huge transition in my mind and a perspective change of, I don't want to do this for the recognition. I don't want to do this because people talk about me good, which is always nice. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, everybody loves being talked about nice, and everybody loves having people come up to you and being like, can I take a picture with you?
Sure.
I've never had that happen before, of somebody being like, can we take a picture with you, and all of these things. But it makes me feel really good when they text me and they say, you won't believe what happened. I've been doing this for, 2 months, and I already got somebody who wants to work with me, and they feel so good about themselves, and I had a part in that. Yeah. That is where I've really figured out that that's the thing I want to focus on. And maybe I'll realize, like, wow, thank you, God. Like, really, that you did give me a gift of wanting to help people. That when I was a kid growing up, I really didn't care about other people. I was like, I'm just doing my own thing. I care about my family, but nobody cares about me, so I don't care about anybody. And that's why I always wanted to live in New York, because whenever we go to New York, nobody cares about you. You're just a spirit walking around there. Like, you're getting bumped into, nobody sees you. Like, but now I'm like, man, I really want to have an impact, on people. And maybe it was because I never thought I could, but it's starting to happen.
What hits me in all of that is, in the beginning, you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing. This is very dark.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just trying to create value, and I don't even know what the value is yet.
Yeah.
And all those feelings, you know, of probably just like, I don't know,
Yeah.
the insecurities,
Yeah.
the frustration, the I'm alone in this. Nobody believes in what I'm doing. I'm just trying to, you know, get through this.
Right.
And then finally to a point, you know, a couple of years later, which is a very quick time.
Very small. Yeah.
It's a very quick time to being like, hey, I'm on stage. Holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
Everything paid off.
Yeah.
It was so dark for so little.
Right.
And now here we are.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Crazy. Well, but it's led you to be able to do other things.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So talk about that.
Yeah. So, you know, the being asked to speak on stage and stuff, that's definitely something that I didn't see coming. But you're right. You do have a moment of when you're first asked, like, wow, this is really paying off. And you can, you know, talk to my wife. Like, we have this conversation all the time. I have, what is that term called? Imposter syndrome. So a lot of times I'll have imposter syndrome of, you know, I'll know that there are people out there that are much better than me at this, because at whatever you're doing, there's always a bigger dog, you know?
Sure. Oh man.
I was always told that growing up, like, you know, about fighting and stuff. It doesn't matter how tough you are. There's always somebody tougher.
Yeah.
So just don't fight, you know, because it's just not worth it, you know, like and that's what I feel about real estate too. On a different topic, I feel about real estate in any industry, but especially real estate, because you have the top producers. Mm-hmm. And I've always said that the top producers are the top producers until they aren't.
Mm.
And I feel like with the way things are changing, with social media being the main source of attention, you know, is cold calling and door knocking, the ways that the top producers became top producers, will that keep them top producers? And, you know, I work with a lot of top producers who they're adapting, and now they're doing a lot more video, and they're in Facebook groups and freaking killing it. And so if you can adapt as a top producer, then great, but most don't, which is why you see a lot of like younger agents climbing the ladder and kicking butt. So to answer your question, going back, you know, I had this perspective change, but this transition of I'm on stage, I'm talking, it's working, it's paying off. And then I started the marketing agency. And that was a lot of the same type of thing of, first of all, I have agents telling business owners of restaurants and coffee shops to reach out to me. Maybe I can help them. And so I was doing a lot of free stuff, just being like, yeah, I'll do something here for you just because I don't know what the opportunity is yet. So I'll help you out. And then I started recognizing, wow, a lot of these places are offering to pay me money to do this for them. And so then I was like, okay, this may be a real thing. And then it's become a very real thing for me. And, but to your point of it's going from not knowing anything to trying something that leads to all these opportunities.
Don't be afraid to explore.
Yeah. You know,
and that's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah. Don't, and that's what I hear from anybody. I've had a lot of conversations, hundreds of conversations over the last couple weeks, right? With really, really successful people. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about people who are so happy internally. Yeah. And they are so happy to give back. And the number one thing that they always say is like, just start and then try things. Like, just go out and try stuff and figure out what works. You always have to make sure that your family's taken care of. So you always have to make sure the bills are paid. So don't get too creative to where, you know, you're broke. You know, so you have to have some level of income to where you can take care of yourself. But if you have a passion to make something of your own, like, go do it. Why not? And so I think that answers your question. I go on tangents.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I like what you said. So if they're bigger than you, just don't fight. What I think I'd like to add to that is maybe join them and collaborate with them. Right? Because as a young man, we want to take on the world and we want to fight. And we want to pound our chest and beat King Kong. Yeah. But as we get older and wiser, we're like, I don't know anything. Right. And I better get some smart people around me. Yeah. And then collaborate with them so I become more. Right. And then keep those circles getting bigger and tighter. Yeah. You know? You know, one thing that I've been
doing lately is I've been trying to do exactly that. Get around people who have accomplished the things that I would like to accomplish someday. People say, you know, get around the people who make the money that you want to make someday. I don't really like talking about money because
it'll come.
Well, and people think when you start talking about money, they're just like, oh, like that's what they're about. They're about making money and stuff. Obviously, everybody wants to make as much money as they can. That's not a secret. Some people do more than others to actually do that, you know, but that's a different conversation. So, you know, it's all about trying to be around 5 successful people so you become the 6th, you know, because that's a whole theory of if you're around 5 losers, you're going to become the 6th losers. If you just hang around 5 losers all the time, then you're going to be the 6th. But if you hang around 5 successful people, in whatever definition of success is your definition, then you'll become the 6th person because you're going to learn from them. And I have a really good example for this. I have been playing pickleball a lot. And I was playing pickleball with people that were new, and I've been playing for a while. And so I was much better than those people. And I could see myself getting worse at pickleball, you know, because I was just playing with people who were challenging me.
Yeah.
And so I started playing with this guy who he's like a pro pickleball player, and he destroys me every single game, like 11-0, 11-0, 11-1, 11-1. And that has been the greatest pickleball experiences for me, because what I've started to see is now when I play other people, like I do much better. So I perform really good. But when I play him, I go, it was 11-0, 11-0, 11-0. I didn't stand a chance. Now it's 11-2, 11-3. 11-2, 11-4. So I'm starting to see myself getting better and better, but it's slow. It's an inch by inch process of getting better, a little bit better. And so for me, that's why I try to reach out to people who are better than me in real estate marketing and in social media and in entrepreneurship. Who's better than me? Who can I learn from so I can get better inch by inch by inch to where now I'm the person that people are wanting to come to get better themselves.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm better than them, but I'm always trying to find who's the next best person so I can try to learn from them. And that's a hard thing to find, because nowadays people, you know, they want something for you to learn from them.
Yeah.
You know, and like I've had a handful of people that I've reached out to interview them for my podcast. And they're like, yeah, that's totally fine. But, you know, we charge $25,000 to do this, and we charge this and we charge that. And that's totally fine. Like, people are going to do what I'm sure they have a large volume of people trying to reach out, so they're leveraging that. But I know for a fact, and people can quote me on this, let's just say theoretically I make it big someday. And there's a lot of people who want to interview me for their podcast. Every single time I will happily do that for free and just give them everything that I know.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about, you know?
Right. I mean, I think the big coaching movement, it really is a big turnoff for me.
Yeah.
You know, because everybody wants to be an expert in something.
Yeah.
And it's, they want to help somebody, but they really may not know that next level. And for me, it's always been a challenge. So true mentorship, I think, and that's, I think, why I don't really jive with the coaching, life coach lifestyle, is true mentorship is this way, up and down.
Yeah.
So you pushing somebody else up and somebody else pushing you up.
Yeah.
Or bringing you up.
Yeah.
Right. And it's because everybody benefits.
Right.
It's the chain.
Right.
Everybody's going to win.
Yeah.
With heart.
Yeah.
With gifts. You know, and treasures and all of it.
Right.
Your world just blows up.
Right.
So to find that's hard though.
Right.
Truly.
It is hard. And I'm lucky enough. I have.
So how have you done it? That's my next question. That's what I was leading to.
Right. How
have you done it to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, through Tidal, I have a really good coach. I have 2 coaches I would consider. And they've been really good for me, because they're sometimes coaches. It's all about just preaching, right? Like, here's what you need to do. Here's what I've done. Da, 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 da. And my coach once told me there's a difference between teaching and coaching. Teaching is trying to put something inside your brain. Like, you're just throwing stuff at people and they're trying to absorb it or whatever. But good coaching is bringing something out of you. And that was the big thing. Teaching is putting something inside of you. Good coaching is pulling the things out of you. that you need. And so that was really, really powerful. And so for me, I've always, I've had people tell me, hey, do you have a discount code for your coaching? And I'm like, I do not coach. So I don't know where you heard that I have like a coaching system and stuff. I don't coach. Because if anybody ever has to do a 10-minute Zoom call or whatever, I'm always happy to do that. I don't care what industry somebody's in. Like I will talk to anybody and everybody if they want to talk with me. And so the way I've kind of always done it, because I'm with you, I don't really like calling myself a coach. I think there's new coaches being born every day. It's just like crazy. Everybody's a coach.
Right.
And I feel like to be a coach, like you really have to earn that. Yeah. Like there's nothing worse than watching a soccer game and seeing the coach and he's like a super like overweight dude and like just I want to see that coach be like he's proven that he can be a coach. Like he's going to coach you to do what he did because he's successful at what he's accomplished.
Right.
And so for me, I don't coach. I don't even like consulting. You know, I just feel like it's just fancy words for just giving advice.
Yeah.
And so that's what I try to do is just like if somebody wants to learn something, first of all, I applaud those people for reaching out because they are showing that they want more. And so I will always sit down with people and do it. And that's been something that's been really good for me because I think that's part of my brand.
Yeah.
Is people know that they can always reach out and talk and I'll give them all the advice that I have about what I've done. Because I'll only talk about things that I've done. I'm not going to talk about things that I haven't done.
Right.
You know, and so it's been really working out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Man, I got to tell you, candidly, I told you this before off camera.
Yeah.
But, you know, I love seeing that growth this whole time. And, you know, for those of you who don't know, Bo asked me to be on the show a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I said, no.
Yeah.
I said, you know, I don't think it's too much noise for my head, basically what I said.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then it sat with me for a while and I just sat and watched you grow.
Yeah.
And so thank you for when I called you and said, hey, I think your story needs to be heard. Yeah. You said yes. You're the man.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you, Greg. You know, we've done a lot of fun stuff together. And I know that you've gone through changes and stuff. Like we haven't even talked about your recent change, which is cool and stuff. You know, but yeah, I just, like I was telling him off camera, like he said no to my podcast and I know Greg. I know he doesn't come from a mean place or anything, and I know that he just genuinely didn't feel like that would be something that would work for him or whatever. And so I was very unemotional about it. I was like, I get it, I respect it, no big deal. Moved on, and I'm super glad that you wanted to do this because I'm always happy to talk about this stuff and to try to help anybody who is wanting to start their journey or who has found a roadblock in their current journey of I don't know if I should keep going. Like the biggest thing that I can't stand hearing is when people are like, I'm just getting, you know, my spouse. Spouses are a big one. Like my spouse is making fun of me all the time for my videos and all of these things. And I just always say like, your spouse will make fun of you until they won't. And then now they're like your biggest supporter. And so it's a very interesting journey. I never, ever thought that this would be the journey that I'd be down. But I'm grateful that it is. And I'm really excited to see where it goes because I'm really excited to see who I can help and how I can help them. I never, ever thought that I would be that person. I never did. I thought I would always be like the guy that just kept his head down and worked hard and did my thing, but helping other people just never was, you know, something that I thought I would be doing. So I'm really glad that it did. So I'm glad that we were able to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
Hope we can do this again and then talk about that period of time.
Yeah. Of course. Anytime.
Awesome, brother.
So, Greg, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Yeah.